The Civil War and Reconstruction by Kenny Halstenberg. The Crisis of the Union. Many slave owners believed that they had a God-given right to property and a right given to them in the Constitution. This caused many conflicts throughout the 1800s. This belief of property caused many problems and became a very heated topic. Most didn't mind slavery, but wanted to stop the spread of it. The Compromise of 1850 was a package of 5 bills passed in September of 1850. California under this was admitted as a free state, denying southern expansion to the Pacific. Texas traded some territory for debt relief. New Mexico was denied statehood, and New Mexico and Utah became territories with state slavery left to popular sovereignty. The Kansas-Nebraska Act created the territories of Kansas and Nebraska. This caused the formation of the Republican Party because of the want to stop the spread of slavery. Each of the territories were determined through popular sovereignty whether they would allow slavery or not. People such as John Brown came to these territories to fight the spread of slavery. Debates in Congress became so heated that events such as the Charles Sumner beating by Preston Brooks happened. Abraham Lincoln was elected as the first Republican president. He was elected in the election of 1860. The election was important because there were many hot issues about slavery and the spread of it. Following the election, on December 20th of 1860, South Carolina succeeds. In February of 1861, the Confederate States of America is formed. These states included South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. A nation divided. Two societies at war. The South had home field advantage, good generals, less people in factories, but they also had knowledge of the land and home field advantage. The North had 4 times as many civilians, more factories, and had 70% of the nation's railroad, also a good navy, but they did not know the land, and they had to travel to the land and conquer large areas of unknown area. The North financed the war through taxes, bonds, and paper money, while private industry also supplied the Union armies. The Confederates used government arsenals to supply the Confederate armies. Efforts to finance lead to runaway inflation. Confederacy currency became worthless, and they also had inadequate transportation systems. The South wanted to stay and just fight for their land. They had no want to really conquer the North. The South had a military strategy that was defined as the Anaconda Plan. The plan was to take over the Mississippi River and blockade the southern ports, like an anaconda slowly squeezing its prey. It had no want to stop slavery, but they just wanted to get the South back into the Union. The South believed that cotton was important enough to make Britain join the South, while the North believed they would join them as an ally. But Britain remained neutral and actually hurting the South's economy because they were not trading with Britain. The Emancipation Proclamation declared all the slaves in the Confederate States free. This was more of a political move, seeing as the war had not yet been won, changing the purpose of the war from preserving the Union to ending slavery as a whole. African Americans played a large role fighting with the Union, working in the military and working in factories. The war divided the South from the North and the West over the topic of slavery. There are many heated debates on what the war should be about, on whether they should stop slavery or just stop the spread of it. The original purpose of the war was to preserve the Union, but it turned to the overall stopping of slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation. Key battles of the war include the First Battle of Bull Run, the Second Battle of Bull Run, the Battle of Antietam, the Battle of Shiloh, the Battle of Gettysburg, and the fall of Atlanta. Gettysburg would end the war with Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. After the war, there was Reconstruction to be done. Lincoln supported a light Reconstruction and not punishing the South for starting the war. He supported a 10% loyalty oath, while Congress wanted to divide the South into non-militarized zones and provide a loyalty oath for 50%. Congress overruled Johnson when he tried to pass a lighter oath. The South was governed by Jefferson Davis and only lasted 4 years. The government was formed the same as the Union's government: Congress, House, and the President. The state governments did not accomplish much, seeing as they were overthrown. Their overall goal was to preserve the Confederacy. During the Civil War, there was many new weapons, such as the Gatling gun. The bullet was made more accurate, and the Monitor and the Merrimac, which were ironclad ships. After the war, African Americans played a large role in the economy, working on farms and factories, expanding the nation's economy. They didn't play a large role in politics until after the Civil Rights Movement, only making small political strides. Many African Americans sought after education, but it was very hard to obtain through racial segregation. The Compromise of 1877 refers to an unwritten deal in an intensely disputed election of 1876. The election ended Reconstruction in the South. Through the compromise, Republican Rutherford B. Hayes was awarded the White House over Democrat Samuel Tidwell, on the understanding that Hayes would remove the federal troops whose support was essential for the survival of the Republican states' governments in California, Florida, and Louisiana. Reconstruction left the Confederacy money worthless and destroyed much of the South with Sherman's March to the Sea, where Sherman used total war, burning everything in his path. Much of the South did not like Reconstruction because of the loyalty oath, and many still wished to be a lone nation. Many had to take oaths, and some could not hold office. Sharecropping is the act of borrowing land from a farmer in order to farm it yourself. This was popular in the South after the Civil War, seeing as slaves had no formal education and could not do anything else. These were almost traps that the slaves stepped into because they could not pay off the farmer with the year's harvest. Crop lending is the act of getting a loan in order to buy planting supplies, such as plows and other machinery. When the farmer could not pay back his loan from the crop lending, he was left in debt at the start of the next year. This sucked in many farmers. After the Civil War, industrialization in the South took a turn. It began to become more popular with the building of factories, new inventions, and the expansion of the railroad system. Growth in cities also took place. The Jim Crow laws and black codes prevented the African Americans from becoming equal. There were literacy tests at polls, and many blacks could not vote. They were also segregated from the whites, which would later be overturned by Brown versus Board of Education. They could not attend public schools, they were not segregated, and they did not get a formal education as the whites did.